Hello everyone, Lamani here, and I am back. I was on a little hiatus at my brother's wedding, but I'm back, I'm recovered, and I'm ready to make some more content this week. Before I started putting out some build guides this week and really getting into those 30-minute deep dives, I wanted to put out a shorter video on a core mechanic of the endgame that is really going to focus on the longevity of the game and how we will keep going in the endgame. The gear score system is the main focus. What's the point of playing the game at endgame? Well, to get stronger, to get better gear. How do we actually do that? That's a question I've been asking myself and I've been trying to understand, and that's something I actually even misspoke about in one of my videos. While this is mainly applicative to the end game content, it can also be used to understand how we're gearing in the middle and early game and understanding how we get these higher gear score drops. So let's cover a couple things here. What even is gear score and how do we get it higher? Something super significant to talk about is something called a watermark. What is watermarking? How can we actually improve on our watermark? Which areas give certain gear score drops? Where do we go to get said drops? And how do we get the best gear possible in the game? All of these are topics I'll be covering, as well as the best way to start getting your gear score higher and higher. Something you can at least do once a day if you have time or you see groups forming, or if you really want to grind, there's some other methods I'll introduce. Either way, stay put, stay right where you are, and enjoy this guide. I know it's not something I traditionally do, but I'm going to start experimenting with all kinds of random things here to try and help everyone in the best way I possibly can. Alright, so I figured the best way to understand the gear scoring system is just jump into the game and talk to you from the character sheet here. So, what is gear score? You'll see this gear score value in the bottom left of my character sheet. Now, the gear score is compiled by taking all of your weapons, accessories, and armor and compiling it into one average value. Gear score itself is going to essentially just display player power. So how strong are you? Somebody like me who has a 541 gear score will be stronger than somebody, let's say that is a fresh 60 and is 500 gear score. Obviously a lot more factors like skill, gameplay, weapons, everything like that go into it, but on stat sheet, on paper, you are statistically stronger than that other person. I know this is a simple core mechanic of the game, but I just want to make sure we would all be on the same page before we start getting into the more intricate systems that go along with gearing. On the topic of gearing in general, just because you have a 541 gear score does not mean that the items you're using are optimal. It is important to note, and this goes for pretty much any MMO, gear score does not necessarily mean you are powerful. A lot of people will have high gear score, but they might not perform as well as people who have a lower gear score and higher skill, or better itemization. So itemization is properly getting the stats and traits that are going to be necessary for you to perform at a higher level. Best example of this, right now as a healer, I have a 500 life staff. Some of you might be like, why? Right, your gear score is 541. What are you doing here? I have the best optimized life staff that I have found yet because I've had very bad luck. That being, I have 24 focus, and sure, I could probably get higher focus on a higher life staff. But I'm also going for the gem, so that's important. Most of them will have the gem. But I'm also looking at traits. The big thing with optimization at endgame is hitting traits. So I talk about this in all my healer videos. You want to have at least blessed on your life staff to get that healing bonus. That trait is worth way more than any item level or any gear score that you will see. For example, the 580 life staff that you get from the quest line, it's kind of garbage. It's not that great, and it doesn't have blessed on it. So a 500 gear score staff with blessed could outperform the 580 life staff. So when we're talking about gear score and end game and getting better in gearing, itemization is what's really going to drive the end game competition. Having properly optimized gear with the best traits possible will give you the highest output possible. But there's only a certain ceiling to that output. If you have all 500 gear score items with the best traits, you can only go so far no matter how skilled you are. You have a ceiling. That ceiling now is gear score. So yes, you can have a higher gear score and be bad at the game. You can have a lower gear score and be good at the game. There's still a point at which so much gear score will carry you and make you better. So let's say you have all the best traits now and you are properly optimized. You're getting the right stats that you can. But let's say you're at 500 gear score. Well, you have a ceiling. There's only so high that you can get with the certain percentages on traits because those roll equivalent to gear score and will increase with gear score. It's a direct relationship there. But same thing with stats. You can only get so many stats. For example, this helmet I have has a 13 strength, 9 constitution split. Although these are different stats on this helmet, I get 14 focus, 9 con split. If you were to change the focus into strength, it'd be 14, right? The higher gear score gives you a higher ceiling, meaning your skills are then amplified by the higher ceiling of stats that you get based on the percentages of traits and the distribution of the stats on the piece. So it is now important not only to optimize, but optimize in relation to the gear score that you can receive. So this is where we start talking about it is important to get a higher gear score. Now, how do we do that? There's a bunch of ways to actually do it, but there's one way that will keep transitioning into more and more gear and more PvE content and getting gear more consistently. So let's just start off with the most obvious way. You can buy gear. Like this 584 helmet, I did not have this drop. I bought it. And that's okay. You can buy gear, but you won't have gear that drops that high. What you can do is just buy a bunch of gear, get your gear score up, but then what you're going to see is you'll still get like 500, 505 gear score drops. Well, why is that happening? That's because of Watermark. Watermark is a hidden gear score value specific and unique to each equipment slot that you have. So you have a watermark for weapon, you have one for helmet, chest, gloves, legs, boots, and accessories. What this value defines is what gear score drops you will receive. It is solely based upon the highest drop gear score you have ever seen, not what you have equipped. For example, my current chest piece I have on is 549, which I got from a drop. What does that mean? I have a watermark of at least 549, meaning I can potentially get drops that are above 549, starting at 550 and all the way to like 555. I'm not quite sure what the ceiling is, but it seems that it's about 5 or 6 gear score higher than what you actually have. Obviously, the percentage chance that you get one of those is much, much less than just getting one. So a lot of the times while increasing my watermark, I would be getting 523, then 524, then 525. I actually have an Excel sheet that I started making to record my own gear scores, which I would definitely suggest to all of you. The important takeaway from that is that just because you've increased your chance to get higher drops does not mean you will always get higher drops. Like my 549 watermark, I still get 500 gear score drops. It's just a chance. And it's a lower chance, but it's a chance on when you get an upgrade. So there's a chance it's 1 item level, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? But there's also a chance that you get anything below that. Getting upgrades is not easy. It's not meant to be. That's the beauty of the grind in an MMO. But regardless, there's a hidden value that you are unable to see. And that's why I think it's important to record for each of your equipment slots. So even if you were to buy, let's say all 580 gear, you will only ever get a 550 chest piece upgrade on a drop, even if yours is 580 at the time, because it is unique to your character based upon what you have seen and what you have proven that you can actually do. Now, this is an interesting mechanic because, right, it prevents you from just buying gear and then getting the best gear possible. It's actually upon the player's skill to get their gear. Understanding the watermarking system and how we actually get better gear is crucial to increasing your player's ceiling. Prevents anybody from just buying all the best gear and then going ahead and getting all the best gear and having a gold-driven end game. Honestly, it's a weird mechanic. I think it's going to be great for the longevity of the game. Something to note, like I was mentioning about buying items, you cannot just buy an item, increase your gear score, and get a higher watermark. It doesn't work that way. You could also craft items. I could go ahead and craft, let's say 600 legendary boots, put them on. That also does not contribute to your watermark. It is solely based on drops. Again, to really emphasize this, you can do quests, right? Quests might give you something like a 580 axe. Video coming soon, TM. I literally started it, but then I started doing this one instead because I thought it was more important. Also, on a side note, I'd like to do 580 weapon guides for everything. Let me know how you feel about that. If you want to see 580 weapon guides and see me start grinding for everything, let me know. I can really help out because some of those quests are annoying. But my 580 axe that I got does not mean I have a 580 watermark there. So watermark, specifically TLDR, the watermark is the hidden gear score mechanic for each unique equipment piece that states what is the highest gear score you can see on a drop that is an upgrade to a maximum of like 5 or 6 points at a time when killing an enemy and getting it as your own drop. So it's specific to your drops out in the world or in other content. We'll talk about that. Not what you've bought, not what you have equipped, not what you craft, not what you receive from a quest. It has to be player earned through killing something or opening a chest. All right, so all this information is fine and dandy, but how does that actually apply to your character? How do we increase our watermark? What is the best way to do so? What's going on there? Right now, in this clip, you're seeing me finishing up a corrupted monolith in Mirkgard and Shattered Mountains. Mirkgard is one of the best places to farm your watermark up to a certain point, running around killing things, but more specifically doing an elite chest run in which the chests respawn every 23 hours. I was part of a Zerg group just going for elite chests, and in Murkguard, each of the corrupted monoliths, portals, etc. will give you an elite zone chest at the end of them, but there's also some scattered out throughout the entire landmark. This group then transitioned over to the Scorched Mines and we got all the elite chests there. But why did we only hit these 2 zones? When trying to boost your watermark, it is important to note where are you doing it. Each elite zone will drop up to a certain gear score level. Each zone has its own ceiling. For example, the elite zone more south in Shattered Mountains will drop a high of 520 gear score. Scorched Mine will drop somewhere in the 570s, I believe. And I know for a fact that Murkguard is the best place to farm because it drops up to 590. You do have to get your watermark up to that point, slowly but surely, but the ceiling in somewhere like Murkguard is much higher than the ceiling anywhere else. There's also some zones in Reekwater or maybe Ebonscale, but the reason why Murkguard is used is 1, the distribution of chests, and 2, the difficulty of the mobs there. They're very easy to kill, especially when you have a big group going. And since they're corrupted, they're weak to a lot of things that people are using more commonly in the meta. So why are elite chests farmed? Well, fun fact, you'll see from the elite chests that you open, only 5 items pop up. But that doesn't mean you're only getting 5 items. You actually get a lot more than 5 items. Try out doing one of these routes and just picking up all the elite chests and then look in your bags and you're going to see like blues and epics and stuff and you're like, how did I actually even get those? The elite chest only shows 5 items in the window, but you get more items than you see. Fun fact. I figured that out because I just had all these random items in my inventory and I don't know how they got there. Elite chests are also used because they're more consistent than just mob grinding. Yes, it's on a 23-hour cooldown, so you can't do that all the time, but you could do it once a day. You will consistently get multiple items, meaning you have multiple chances for gear score increases, instead of just mindlessly killing mobs. You can mindlessly kill them on your way to the elite chests, and you can do that afterwards after you've gotten all your elite chests, but it's really important that you go along, get the elite chests, and try to get higher watermarks from those. So what I would recommend you doing, figure out a group. Lots of groups will be looking for these since Murkguard is the best place to do it, and look at one of the interactive maps that has elite chests highlighted. Now, if you don't want to go right to Murkguard and you want to try and start in some lower places first, go ahead, find a little group, get one of those interactive maps going and start increasing your watermark that way and slowly lead up to the 590 point. Elite zones are going to be your best friend when you're trying to increase watermark. It's the easiest way. I wouldn't say it's maybe the best way. I would say it's the most efficient way. That being that elite zones can only drop a maximum ever of 590. And again, it's going to be like Murkguard, Reekwater, Ebonscale, and those really tough zones. But each of them has different loot tables as well, meaning they can drop different legendaries, things of that nature. Regardless, you can kill mobs and you can grind your gear score up to a 590 watermark. Now, is this the only way? No. By no means is it the only way. Expeditions and arenas and wars and outpost rushes, along with things like corrupted portals, will also help to increase your watermark. Corrupted portals won't be the best way, but they'll still help too if you want to get some of those done, get some of the crafting materials, get some Azoth, things like that. But the highest tier of gear will come from expeditions and arenas. Wars and invasions will also increase with watermark, but I know for certain that arenas and expeditions will give you the 590 to 600 watermarking capability. So right now when you hit 60, there's not a ton of people looking for like Lazarus groups. Why is that? Because they don't want to waste their orbs getting gear and watermarking when it's absolutely necessary to run those in order to increase your watermark once they get to 590. Do I think that's the best idea? No. For the sake of having fun and playing the game, go run those expeditions, farm up the materials. You can still get some really damn high gear from in there, some really nice gear, and have a ton of fun doing it, which is probably what I'm going to start doing because I don't want to just mindlessly grind my watermark through elite zones. But if you want to be the most efficient in grinding your gear score up and grinding your watermark, elite zones and elite chests specifically will be your friend. Get in a group, go throughout the zone, follow everyone, get all the elite chests, do a loop, do that at least once a day. You can then farm bosses in these zones. Like Murkguard, there's a boss zone farm that a lot of people do, and they'll just go between 2 bosses, running along walls and setting up campfires. It's kind of annoying, but if you really want to grind out those watermarks, go ahead, be my guest. But For the sake of getting up to 590 and not getting the absolute top tier gear, elite zones are where you should watermark. Specifically, the places in Shattered Mountain, like the Scorched Mines, which will help you get pretty high, but then Murkgard will give you the absolute highest. The reason why people even start farming in Murkgard in general is because then they don't really have to transition to any other zones. It's guaranteed that you're not going to hit a breakpoint where it's like, okay, the gear is going to stop increasing here. It's always going to be higher and higher and higher and higher as you continue to farm there. Maximizing your time there just makes the most sense. Is it the most fun? Like I was saying, no. But if you really want to be grindy, sweaty, and get it up, you better head over there. At least do the chests like once a day. Now, once you've gotten to that point of 590, which I am nowhere near yet, and that's okay, we'll get there. You will maximize your watermarking and gear scoring through arenas, which are the solo boss content in which you go in with a group. You have a timer and you have to kill a boss within that amount of time, or running the highest level expeditions like Lazarus Instrumentality. All right, so how about we jump back in game and I give you a quick TLDR because I know I talk so much and there's a lot going on of everything we covered just to make sure that you all get the key points from the video. First things first, what is a gear score? Gear score is what, if you hover over it, your overall power level derived from your equipped items. It's going to equate to the average value of your weapon, your armor, and your accessories. We talked about item optimization. Make sure you get good traits, not just high gear score. Item optimization is going to be the key to end game and what really separates a good player from a bad player and good gearing from bad gearing. So make sure we itemize. Next, a watermark. Watermarks are the hidden gear score value of every single item that you have that shows what potential gear score upgrades can drop at. So if you have a 525 watermarked chess piece, for instance, that's the highest gear score chess piece you've ever seen. Therefore, any upgrades, there's a chance that they can roll 526 to like 531, something like that. Does not have to be equipped at that time. Where's the best place to watermark? Shattered Mountains, Murkgard. Hitting each of these monoliths, portals, etc. is going to give you an elite chest. There's also elite chests spread throughout the zone, and the mobs there drop the highest gear score loot, being up to 590. Scorched Mines is also a very good one, going between the inferior and superior mines. High gear score can drop up in here, higher than the inferior one. Still a lot of elite chests. Possibility of high gear score loot dropping from the enemies there as well. So you can go to Shattered Mountains and get high tier loot. You could also go over to Ebonscale, specifically the Imperial Palace. That can give you some loot. It's not the greatest. That's probably the best in Ebonscale. You could go to Reekwater. Right here, the Eternal Pool is going to drop some nice stuff and some great legendaries, especially for healers. I'm hoping to cover that eventually. There's all kinds of zones here that you could do. Could also go to the Drift down low and get some decent loot. In general, if you're looking to increase your watermark, you can go any elite zone that you want. You'll start to get more gear, but just remember that there's a ceiling to each elite zone. For instance, in Shattered Mountains, the one in the south is going to give you a maximum of 520. The mines will give you somewhere in the 570s, and Murkgard is up to 590. It's going to depend on where you are, but watermarking is the key to getting higher gear score items. If you want the highest gear score items, you're going to have to do things like Lazarus Instrumentality and do those high level expeditions, or you can make keys to do arenas and fight the one boss within a allotted amount of time with a group, and they will drop great gear. Oh, if you have any other questions on gearing, any other questions on what's going on with watermarking, endgame, please feel free to let me know. Hopefully this information was helpful for you in understanding why you might not be getting higher drops, how to get higher drops while you're leveling and in endgame, and how to make your character stronger as far as optimization of items. That's something I'm looking to really touch on as we go further into our New World guides. Once I get all of my basic guides out, I'm really going to start focusing on like healer itemization. What traits are you going to want? I talk about the life staff traits that you would like, but I don't go through all the armor and go through everything. I don't go pure best in slot builds yet. Right now, I'm giving you the foundation so that all of you can start to learn the game. All of us can learn together. All of us can play together. Once we get that point, that's when we'll really kick it up a notch. We'll start talking about, okay, you want X, Y, and Z so that you can be the best healer that you can possibly be, the best DPS as we go into those builds, and best tank. I want to cover everything. Please let me know what you want to see next. For the next video, I'm planning on doing my PvE healer guide, my life staff ice gauntlet for expeditions setup, and kind of what I'd run out in the world if I was just healing people for group content. That's what's on the docket. I'll probably get an expedition or two in today and get those recorded to kind of show you, all right, this is the setup I have, this is the build I have, this is the gear I go through, and then some basic healing tips like healing settings, how to heal, how to manage cooldowns, things like that. But for now, I thought this was super important as more of you are getting to endgame to know how can you improve your gear every single day. Let me know what you thought about the video. Let me know if you have questions about specific areas or specific gear score related things. And please, 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 please keep doing that weird YouTube stuff. You guys, you all have been so kind and so amazing. I mean, we're at 4.5K subs. Would anybody imagine that? Again, I'm going to bring up this thing where I was picking peppercorns 2 weeks ago. Well, like, what? All of that support means so much to me. And one time I'm going to mention this in the videos. I apologize. I'm not trying to be a sellout. I've started a Patreon. If you're really enjoying my content, you want me to start putting out more content, more guides, PvP clips, expedition runs. Do you want me to start live streaming? I need that support. And so I started a Patreon so that I can start dedicating more time to something like this. And we're starting to already get some people with it. I just wanted to go ahead and thank my first 5 patrons. That's actually super cool that somebody has said, hey, let me join you on this crazy ride and is willing to support me through this. I want to make a page. I'm going to start working on stuff like that. I want to make a page, want to make a Discord, maybe socials, things like that. But thank you, Jacob, Adrian, Thuggius, Shane, and Gil. You guys are the best. All of you are amazing, but especially you guys. I really appreciate it. Regardless, I appreciate all of you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And thank you for being you.